Let me tell you something about the Galactic Sovereignty Council. They had a rule, a very simple, very elegant, and very ego-soaked rule. Whoever speaks first in a first contact situation loses. Not loses as in, oh dear, how embarrassing. Loses as in your planet becomes a fuel depot for their warships within a decade. 43 civilizations had spoken first. 43 civilizations were now fuel depots. Our Supreme Fleet Commander, a magnificent specimen of the Vorkai species named Dhurak, was absolutely certain that the 44th civilization would be no different. He was wrong, but we will get to that. The blue planet floated in its orbit like it had absolutely no concern for the universe around it. Our fleet had dropped from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. 12 warships shining under distant starlight, weapons charged, communication arrays active. We were broadcasting on every frequency known to sentient life. Radio waves, graviton pulses, quantum-encoded tachyon bursts. Signals even a primitive civilization could accidentally detect. We had been broadcasting for 6 of their planetary rotations. The blue planet said nothing. Dhurak paced the command bridge of the unbroken throne with his 4 arms clasped behind his back. His silver mandibles clicked in the rhythm his staff had learned to fear. It meant he was thinking, or more accurately, it meant he was annoyed that he had to think. "Reka," he said, turning to the chief communications officer, a young Vorkai female with iridescent green plating along her skull. "Run the diagnostics again." Reka had already run the diagnostics 11 times. She ran them a 12th time with the expression of someone who had accepted fate. "All systems are functional, Commander. Our signals are reaching the planet's surface. They're simply not answering." "Not answering?" Dhurak repeated slowly. "Not answering," Reka confirmed. Gorra, the chief xenobiologist, and the only crew member who had actually read the full intelligence file on this species, cleared his throat. Nobody looked at him. They never looked at Gorra unless something was already burning. "Commander, preliminary data suggests this species has an unusual psychological profile." "What profile?" Dhurak asked. "They do not respond to pressure the way other civilizations do. In fact, evidence suggests pressure makes them." "Makes them what?" "Stubborn," Gorra said finally. Dhurak stared at him. Then he laughed. The entire bridge laughed. Even Reka laughed, and immediately regretted it, because Gorra was the only one in the room who had done his research. "Stubborn," Dhurak said, wiping moisture from his secondary eyes. "Magnificent. On day 7, we will initiate Phase 2. We will park the fleet in their upper orbit, visible from their surface. Every major population center will see us. Let us see how stubborn they are when 12 warships block their sunlight." Phase 2 was, historically, the point where civilizations began speaking very, very quickly. Day 7 arrived. We moved the fleet. From low orbit, the blue planet was genuinely remarkable, in a way a predator is remarkable just before it bites. Enormous green land masses wrapped in weather systems the size of nations. Oceans stretching farther than some star systems. And the cities. The cities burned at night like scattered embers on a cooling world. Thousands of them, housing a species that had somehow mastered nuclear physics, global communication, and antibiotics within roughly the same century. Chaotic little creatures. Humans. But they still were not talking. 12 warships in their orbit, visible to the naked eye, moving slowly enough to track with basic telescopes. The planet below was buzzing. Very much buzzing. Reka confirmed that human communication networks were exploding with activity. Military channels, government channels, media broadcasts. The species was clearly aware, just not responding to us. "They're talking to each other," Reka said quietly. "Not to us. Commander, they're talking very, very much to each other." Gorra said nothing. He pulled up a single line from the intelligence report and read it quietly. It stated, "This species has a documented history of treating external threats not as a reason to surrender, but as a reason to cooperate." He looked at the blue planet below. For the first time in his career, he was genuinely unsure whether they were the hunters in this situation. Day 9. Still nothing. Dhurak had stopped pacing. Pacing required a certain kind of optimism, a belief that movement itself might produce answers. By day 9, he had moved beyond optimism. He had reached a cold, quiet fury that was far more dangerous than pacing ever was. He sat in his command chair, staring at the blue planet on the main display with the stillness of a predator that has just realized the prey it was hunting had been circling behind it the entire time. "They launched something," said Fellows, the tactical officer. A broad-shouldered Vorkai with burn scars along his right jaw from a skirmish near the outer drift. His voice was flat, professional, but his posture had changed. The kind of shift experienced soldiers make when instinct begins overriding training. Small craft, multiple launches, 6 surface locations. They are converging. "Weapons?" Dhurak asked. Fellows studied his screen longer than was comfortable. "No, Commander. No weapons signatures. No shielding arrays. No combat-grade propulsion." He paused. "They appear to be research vessels." The bridge went very quiet. "They sent scientists," Reka said softly. Not as a question, as a realization. "They sent scientists," Fellows confirmed. Dhurak turned slowly toward Gorra. "In your intelligence report," Dhurak said, each word precise, controlled, and dangerous in its calmness. "Was there any section that explained what this species does when confronted with something they have never seen before?" Gorra folded his hands. "Yes, Commander. Section 14, subsection 3. It was titled, Curiosity as a Survival Mechanism." Nobody laughed. The lead human vessel matched the fleet's orbital path within 2 hours. By military standards, it was absurd. A white cylindrical craft with solar panels sticking out at strange angles, moving through space with the aerodynamic grace of a thrown boot. It carried no weapons, no meaningful armor. According to Fellows' scan, it contained 6 humans, several recording devices, and a very large supply of stored food. They had packed snacks. They had looked up at 12 warships parked above their planet and decided to bring snacks while flying up to take a closer look. Gorra found this either deeply inspiring or deeply terrifying. He had not decided which. On the 9th day, at approximately the 14th hour of their planetary clock, the communication array on Reka's console activated. The humans spoke. The bridge held its breath. The signal was audio-based. Standard radio frequency. Clear. Direct. Reka ran it through the translation matrix. The language had more than 6,000 dialect variations, and the system needed several seconds to identify which one was being used. Then the translation appeared on the main display. It read, "Hello. We have been watching you watch us. We thought someone should speak eventually. We have a few questions, if you have time. Also, we're not sure if you eat, but we brought extra food." The bridge did not move. Dhurak stared at the screen. Fellows stared at the screen. Reka stared at the screen with the expression of someone watching physics itself file a complaint. Gorra slowly placed his face in his hands, not from despair, but from the effort of not making a sound that would be deeply inappropriate given the gravity of the moment. The Galactic Sovereignty Council's great rule was simple. Whoever speaks first loses. The humans had not spoken first out of fear. They had not spoken first out of intimidation. They had waited, watched, studied, and then, when they were ready, when the terms existed entirely on their own timing, they spoke first on purpose. Not because they lost, because they decided they were hosting this meeting. Dhurak leaned forward in his chair. His mandibles went completely still. Reka had never seen that before. When he spoke, his voice was quieter than she had ever heard it. Stripped of authority. Stripped of pride. Only honesty remained. "Gorra." "Yes, Commander," sent a reply. "Tell them, we are not hungry, but we appreciate the offer." Gorra began typing. His hands were slightly unsteady, because somewhere in the Sovereignty archives, nobody had ever written what to do when a civilization you intended to conquer looked up at your fleet, waited politely, and greeted you like a neighbor who had been waiting for you to knock properly. The blue planet had not spoken first. It had spoken last. And, somehow, that was far more frightening, or far more reassuring. Gorra, staring at the pale curve of that impossible world below, began to suspect that which side you stood on when the airlock opened determined everything. Earth did not speak first. It simply waited,